Hello, I'm Tom Vasile. I'm a friend of Mike McIsaac, and there's Tom Choquette
I'll see
behind
you
me.
tomorrow, darling.
Okay. He's asked me to share with you how I got the Urantia Book in my hands. And I was born and raised Catholic, really believed in the Catholic Church up until the time of catechism. And then when I started studying what the Catholic Church was all about, I lost my faith in it completely. I couldn't believe that it was the unholy apostolic church. And so went on through my life as kind of agnostic, and eventually by the time I was 19 turned into an atheist and just didn't believe there was any God. And that pretty quickly spiraled into being very depressing, and I wanted to kill myself. But at the time I was contemplating killing myself, I was thinking about how could I get a gun and put it in my mouth and end it all. A guy tapped me on the shoulder and said, "What's wrong, Tom?" And I said, "Nothing, leave me alone." And he told me that, "Yeah, I guess you already heard." And I said, "I haven't heard anything." And he says, "Well, you'll want to know." And then he tells me a friend of mine, Doug Murphy, went out on his front lawn that very night and put a shotgun in his mouth and blew his head off. Well, obviously that was a shocking experience. It's hard for me to believe that a friend did that when I was contemplating it. But going through the funeral was a dramatic experience for me, because I was thinking, okay, I'm going to go to the funeral and then I'm going to kill myself. But I'll see what it's like, what they're going to be doing at the funeral here. During the course of the funeral, I started getting really bombarded with questions like, what if there's meaning in life? What if there's a reason to be alive? And I kept thinking, well, if there was, it's a tragedy that Doug killed himself and that I'm gonna, but there isn't any reason. This life's total chaos. And then I got a flash like there's order in the universe. And I thought, well, yeah, in the universe there's order, but down here, this is chaos. And then I got the question asked again, well, what if there's a reason for living? What if there's a meaning for life? And by the time I left the funeral, walking out of the church, I decided, okay, I'm going to try to find the meaning in life or die trying. And then that took me into quite a few different experiences, but I'll bring the story shorter. I ended up accepting Jesus into my life, and that was a real profound experience. And I really felt his presence in the room. And I decided to follow him, and I was in the Navy at the time and had 3 more years to go in the Navy. Just following every day what I thought he wanted me to do, I ended up getting out of the Navy and getting into the University of San Diego and doing what he told me to do. I ended up getting a full scholarship, and I got an honorable discharge from the Navy, and was able to go to college and minor in psychology and minor in philosophy and religious studies. I was reading the Bible on my own, studying it, and studying it in college. That's why I minored in religious studies. Well, I'd finished a course on the origins of the Gospels, and that was fascinating. Okay, this is Tom Vasile. This is a continued story of how the Urantia Book got in my hands. And I just got through talking about how the University of San Diego, I was in a religion class studying on the origin of the Gospels. And after that class ended, I went home and I became convinced that the Bible was not the Word of God, that it was inspired, but it wasn't the Word of God, and I needed something else to study. I needed not to study. I thought I just needed something else, and I thought it was going to be a guru or something. I started studying Eastern religions and looking into all kinds of different things, and I got into a conversation with a next door neighbor who I didn't know real well, and we got into metaphysical conversation, and he says, hey, I have some friends who have a book that was written by people from UFOs. Are you interested in that? And I said, I'm interested in anything right now, sure. And the next day, he's on my doorstep with this big blue book, and he says, my friends who own it don't take it serious. You can have it as long as you want. I'll see you later. I gotta go. That's how I got it into my hands. And when I first got it, I was very skeptical, and I wasn't real sure if I ought to get into it, because I had read Satan's Alive and Well on Planet Earth and was concerned about being led astray. And then I just asked the Father, should I even get into this? And I got the message in my own head was, knowledge in yourself is not going to hurt you. It's what you do with it. And I'll be with you in it. So then I opened the book, and I would read books then from cover to cover, so I started with the foreword and could not understand the first paragraph. So I went through the table of contents and found the previous written records. And I went right to that. No, and this is going to be talking about the Gospels. And it did, and it was right up current with current day theologians of 1975, right with what they were talking about, but it expanded it. And that caught my attention. And then I started reading the life and teachings and slowly became convinced that this is the real life of Jesus. That's my story of how I got it.
And what year was that?
1975.
1975, same year I was born.
Was it really?